All right, we're off and running. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. What we're getting into here, we want to take a look at the top Niners free agent targets after the 2025 NFL trade deadline. So San Francisco no longer can trade for anybody, but if they feel as though they have needs remaining on this roster, here are some players who they could sign to the 53 or even the practice squad. Free agent target number one is along the interior of this defensive line, and it's Christian Wilkins. Now, you're going to hear this name and say, man, with the Miami Dolphins, he was a great player. He signed that big deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. Why is he still out there? Well, it's still unclear if he's even healthy because the Raiders wanted him, according to our sources here at Chat Sports, to get a surgery on the Liz Frank injury on his foot. Maybe it was a Jones fracture. Either way, a foot surgery. Christian Wilkins didn't want to get that surgery. There are also some weird locker room accusations lingering around Christian Wilkins as well. Him getting a little touchy with teammates out there. That's some of the buzz that's been speculated. And there have been zero reports of any visits. So teams clearly a little bit scared off. But I'll tell you what, when this guy is right, he's a really good player in the National Football League. Now, he signed that big deal with the Raiders. Didn't work out. It blew up in their faces. Only played 5 games with the Raiders last year because he hurt his foot. Then early this offseason, we saw photos surfacing of him in this walking boot. So that foot really never healed. But in 2023, 9 sacks with Miami. The year before that, 3.5. The year before that, 4.5. He's been a very productive and disruptive player from the interior defensive line. But again, I'm staying away because of those injury problems. Free agent target number 2. This is a player who I think would work out well for the Niners and be a really good fit on the field, fulfilling a need, but also in the locker room. Multi-time All-Pro safety, Justin Simmons. He did not play that well with the Atlanta Falcons last year, but the Falcons have not been a well-run organization, and that defense last year was horrid. And they were last in the NFL in sacks, last in the NFL in pressure percentage. They gave up the most passing touchdowns in the league last year. And so that didn't do the back end any favors. But with Simmons here, we're talking about a 4-time second-team All-Pro. I'm surprised he's still available. He's 31 years old. And the Niners' safeties have not performed well this year, whether it be Marquise Siegel and Jason Pinnock, whether it be now what we're seeing from Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa. Free agent target number 3, Asante Samuel Jr. Really good young player who's available. Just got that spinal fusion surgery, and he was medically cleared. And so with him finally being cleared for football activities, he got that surgery in April. He's free to sign with any team. And according to ESPN, he's in touch with a lot of teams. He plans to make free agency visits. And how about this? He is going to visit the 49ers on Monday. Now, the numbers with Renardo Green haven't been great. I actually think he's played okay. It's not like he's given up a ton of explosive plays this year. Deommodore Lenoir continues to be one of the more underrated players in the National Football League. Upton Stout, he's on the rise, and I think he's going to continue to get better. You add Asante Samuel Jr. to the mix. Yes, he has that injury history, but this is a high-level starting caliber corner who makes plays on the football, has really good instincts, obviously has NFL bloodlines. His pops played in the league and was a great corner for the Patriots and the Eagles. And before Junior got hurt last year, double-digit pass breakups every single season prior to that. And already he's visited with a couple of teams and has more visits coming up. Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, Carolina Panthers. And then obviously with this being a fluid situation, more teams are being added to that, including, according to Ian Rappaport, the 49ers on Monday. We've talked a lot about Junior here on the show. If you want the Niners to sign him, hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, that's fine. But I always want you to have a voice and debate here on the show, so give me your reasoning. Stephon Gilmore, checking in at number 4. 35-year-old corner. Obviously, his best days are behind him, but a 2019 Defensive Player of the Year, made the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago. Last year, he played on the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings had one of the best defenses in the NFL, and he had 9 pass breakups. The year before that with Dallas, 13 pass breakups. With Indy in 2022, 11 pass breakups. So a savvy, accomplished veteran right there. A lot of Niner fans are familiar with this name, Eric Kendricks, the linebacker. And with Eric Kendricks, he verbally agreed to a deal with the Niners last year during the legal tampering period. And then when free agency actually started, he spurned the Niners, signed with the Dallas Cowboys. I actually don't think he played poorly last year under Mike Zimmer with Dallas. 138 tackles, 4 TFLs, 3 sacks, and 2 picks. Another player who has that type of Pro Bowl resume. And I like the Niners' young backers. Tatum Bethune, I hope that Nick Martin could see the field at some point. D. Winters is a pretty solid player. But for Kendricks, if an injury happened at linebacker and the Niners are really trying to make a playoff push, he's a vet who's seen everything at this level. Jawan Bentley at the linebacker spot, former New England Patriot. Last year, 12 tackles, no TFLs, no pass breakups, no picks. But you see in the 3 prior years to that, because he only played 2 games last year, he racked up double-digit tackles in all of those years. So he's been a consistent, productive player throughout his career. Another linebacker here off ball is Josey Jewell, who's had some solid moments throughout his NFL career, but like with all of these players, there's a reason why he's still available. Now, last year, he was a productive player for Carolina. 97 tackles, 7 TFLs. That's the ability to go up against the run. You can use him as an occasional blitzer, especially as a delayed blitzer. 3.5 sacks and 7 pass breakups. So he wasn't awful in coverage. There are some solid names on this free agency list for San Francisco. We're going to get back to that list here coming up just around the corner. But first, today's sponsor of the 49ers Report, brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right, come on now, it never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. This is America's #1 fantasy sports app. You pick, predict, play. You get your picks in less than 60 seconds, and you can win some big-time money. All you got to do is choose more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're good to go. This is the only app that offers stacks. You can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want to pick more on Christian McCaffrey's receiving yards, rush yards, and touchdowns. Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. Looking ahead to Sunday, Niners, Rams, Christian McCaffrey more than the 50.5 receiving yards. It's been a great selection all year long because he's been one of the most productive receivers in football. Devontae Adams, more than half rushing or receiving touchdown. He's got 8 tutties this year. And then I think George Kittle finds the end zone, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. We go back to the cornerback spot, and let's take a look at Kendall Fuller here. Again, I don't hate what the Niners have had at the cornerback spot, but if they want to bring in a veteran because there isn't a ton of depth there, opposite of Darrell Luter Jr., who was a full participant this week, but is dealing with an Achilles problem, they could look to go after a guy in Fuller who is a former 3rd-round pick and spent some time with Washington, with Kansas City, back with Washington, Miami, and most recently with the Detroit Lions. Last year in 11 games with Miami, he did register 7 pass breakups. 15 games with Washington in 2023, 9 PBUs. Look at the PBU numbers in 2021 and in 2022, 16 and 13. An edge rusher. This is more of a fit for a 3-4 defense, but Shaq Barrett has been a productive player throughout his entire career. He really made a name for himself while playing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's had some seasons where he's had really good sack production prior to being with Tampa Bay. Good player for the Denver Broncos from 2014 through 2018, and a fantastic story as an undrafted free agent out of Colorado State. Before that, Nebraska, Omaha. So he's been with the Broncos, Bucks, Dolphins, went back to the Bucks, 2-time Super Bowl champ, a 2nd-team All-Pro in 2019, a 2-time Pro Bowler most recently in 2021. His most recent productive year, when he was still playing really well, 10 sacks in 2021. There was also a season as I pull up some of his numbers here on the fly, where he had some crazy sack numbers. It was back in 2019 when he had 19 and a half sacks under Todd Bowles. DJ Chark is a wide receiver who I don't think he moves as well, obviously, as he once did. There were some years where he definitely had some productive seasons. I don't think the Niners are going to go after a wideout, but they could if it got to a point where Brandon Ayuk doesn't come back. Jacob Cowling has re-injured his hamstring 3 times. DJ Chark was a Pro Bowler back in 2019 when he went over 1,000 yards. Outside of that, he struggled to stay healthy. Back to the cornerback spot, James Bradberry. For the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2022, he was a second-team All-Pro. The Eagles tried to use him at safety in training camp going into last year. Then he suffered a lower body injury. In 2023, he did not play well. Did have 13 pass breakups, but was an awful tackler. In 2022, that's when he was an All-Pro with those 17 PBUs. He an All-Pro alongside Darius Slay that year for a team that went to the Super Bowl. Gus Edwards at the running back spot. For me, when I look at the Niners' backfield and when I examine it, is Isaac Guerrero ever going to get a carry? Is Jordan James ever going to see the field? Can we see more from Brian Robinson? So Gus Edwards is a player who ran for 810 yards in 2023. He's been a productive guy as far as finding the end zone, 13 tutties in 2023 for Baltimore, but I don't think the Niners go the route of a running back. Isaiah Simmons, man, when he was coming into the NFL out of college, a freak athlete, but I think that you can classify him as the classic tweener. Started off with Arizona, then he went to the Giants and really never found a groove because he was kind of an in-betweener as far as being an edge rusher. Is he a 3-4 or a 4-3 guy? Is he an off-ball linebacker? No team was really able to figure that out with him. Jamaal Williams, I love the swagger that he has. I like the physicality that he plays with. When he was with the Lions a few years ago, led the NFL in touchdowns. Vonn Bell is the safety who in this league has been a hard hitter and at times very solid in coverage. Deontay Johnson had some workouts with teams recently, the most recent one with the New York Giants, and this is just a bad apple in the locker room. I mean, last year he was with, 4 or 5 teams over the span of a calendar year. When he was with Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin was able to manage him, and he had some really good years. Since then, hasn't been able to stick with the team. Odell Beckham Jr. obviously had one of the best starts to an NFL career for any wide receiver in the history of the NFL. Tore his ACL, came back, had some good years with Cleveland, was good with the Rams, tore his ACL again. He's dealt with a ton of injuries. In 22, missed the entire season. The most recent ball that he played was with Miami last year, and he just didn't have that same pop. Now, this is a Chat Sports favorite here. Will Odell Beckham play in the NFL again? OBJ for yes, no BJ for no. Let me know down in the comment section. Nelson Aguilar won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2017, had a career season that year as well. Played good after he left the Eagles, and for Lamar Jackson was a solid threat, high character guy in the locker room. Cam Smith at the cornerback spot. This is a former, 2nd or 3rd round pick who's still out there. And then Lewis Seen at safety, a former 1st round pick not long ago out of Georgia by the Minnesota Vikings. Got let go by Minnesota, signed by Philadelphia. And I just think that he was a better player in college and just never really panned out at the NFL level. Other free agents here. Cam Sutton at cornerback, former Niner, Emmanuel Moseley. Unfortunately, Emmanuel Moseley left the Niners, signed a decent deal with Detroit, and has never been able to stay healthy since then. And obviously the last year with the Niners, he did tear his ACL on the road against the Carolina Panthers on that turf surface. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's unfortunate for him because his story in going from a guy who was an afterthought coming out of college to earning his stripes at the NFL level, it's just sucked to see him not be able to stay healthy. Zack Moss at running back. If you're looking at offensive lineman, Brandon Scherf, 5th overall pick from long ago by Washington, he's still out there. Jared Wills is still out there as well, but there aren't a lot of good offensive linemen, which obviously I know Niner fans will bring up. So with that, name a free agent who you want the Niners to sign. That's a look at the top free agents available after the NFL trade deadline. Get your voices down in the comment section. Let me know. You can also let me know what you think about this show, about this channel, about this content on social media. I'm always talking about the Niners here. I'm always talking about the Niners on X and IG as well at Chase_Senior.